This is CBC Vancouver News.
It's happened again.
It's like Groundhog Day.
Another truck slams into a lower mainland overpass, snarling traffic and shutting down the company. Plus,
for this year, we're all kind of on edge, wondering if we're going to get any snow.
BC farmers and ranchers struggle through a warmer winter with less snow and lingering drought. And
I really love swimming.
A great outlet for kids. But some BC parents say they cannot keep up with the rising costs of sports for their children.
When a parent has to choose between food and rent, that sports are often the first things to go.
Joining us, that's the sound of repair work on yet another BC highway overpass after it was smashed into by yet another truck. This time the 112th Street overpass in Delta today. Drive BC says Highway 99 southbound is still closed there. The company involved is also being shut down. Our Mira Baines joins us with more. Mira, what happened this time?
Dan, around noon, a commercial semi-truck with a trailer carrying steel girders hit the 112th Street overpass on Highway 99. This video shows the aftermath with one girder still stuck in the overpass. Delta fire crews say the crash caused a second accident involving another car, and one person was sent to hospital. We don't know yet how badly they're injured. An initial assessment by the ministry's contractor appears to show significant damage to the highway infrastructure. The truck involved belongs to the Chohan Group Trucking Company. The ministry says it has now suspended the company. Just 2 weeks ago, the BC government announced tougher penalties for trucks that hit overpasses. Overheight vehicle fines rose from $115 to $575. Provincial statistics show there were 16 overpass strike reports last year alone and 31 since 2021. The ministry calls it frustrating. A Delta councillor says it's simply unacceptable.
It's like Groundhog Day. We're seeing the same story play out over and over and over again. And every single time it happens, it's a significant impact for commuters trying to get home from work, for local businesses that have significant impacts for the local economy. When highways are closed down for days and weeks at a time, it's simply unacceptable that we're seeing this level of damage to overpasses across Metro Vancouver.
Mira, what does the trucking company have to say?
Chohan Trucking has been involved in another overpass crash at that very same overpass in February of last year. Government stats say it has been involved in about 6 out of 31 overpass crashes since 2021. In a statement, Chohan Trucking says, unfortunately, one of our trucks operated by an owner-operator was involved in an accident today in Delta. The driver, who is not a company driver, failed to wait to receive his permit and route directions for his oversized load. The company's management claims the driver was told to wait by its safety manager and is disappointed with the driver's actions, as it says it's been working with the ministry on this issue. The BC Trucking Association has said these types of crashes are because of complacency, lack of education, and a small number of unscrupulous trucking companies. And late today, BC's Transportation Minister Rob Fleming said this needs to stop.
Mira Baines, thanks very much. RCMP in Nanaimo say a 14-year-old boy has died after the ride-a-mower he was on crashed into a pickup truck. Mounties say the mower didn't stop at the intersection of Lindsay Road and White Road in Cedar, just south of Nanaimo. Police say paramedics rushed the boy to hospital where he was pronounced dead. Officers say the 45-year-old truck driver stayed at the scene and is cooperating with police. Drugs and alcohol have been ruled out as factors in this crash. Police say at the time the roads were wet. The warmer than usual holiday season throughout BC is bad news for many people, especially farmers, ranchers, and their livestock. As Michelle Morton shows us, they're already struggling with drought.
So the snowpack is what helps irrigate our fields and bring the water table up. And so we're noticing that going forward for this year, we're all kind of on edge wondering if we're going to get any snow.
Outside of 100 Mile House, Robertson says the biggest impact the drought has had on her farm has been on the hay. Last year, she says, they produced enough to get through the winter for her sheep and pigs. But this year, they saw a drop of about 50% in her crop and had to start purchasing the hay to get through the year.
Well, and the thing with that is because it's so in demand, hay costs have gone up substantially.
Cattle ranches are also feeling the effects. In the interior, the BC Cattlemen's Association represents around 1,200 members and says water is without a doubt the top priority right now.
We've really been in drought since about June 2022, and with the lack of moisture and snowfall we're seeing this year, there's not much there right now to fill the dams and the dugouts and that watershed that we need, and the runoff is just not looking really good right now.
Agriculture Canada shows in this map of BC, much of the province was seeing severe and moderate drought intensity at the end of November.
It's looking like an El Nino winter. El Nino is really strong at this point in time.
Environment Canada says subtle changes are expected for the central interior and possibly the south coast in the first couple of weeks of the new year, thanks to cooler air moving in from the north. And that could mean a little bit of moisture and some snowfall at higher elevations.
But I don't really see anything that's going to really change things significantly for us, that we're going to be able to go, wow, that's over with. We're looking at much better conditions.
The province did not comment in time for broadcast, but says on its website that it provides some financial assistance for agricultural producers impacted by drought. Michelle Morton, CBC News, Vancouver.
If you're looking for yet another holiday gift to give this season, Canadian Blood Services is asking for your help.
So this week and next week are sort of our most challenging weeks for donations. And I'll just say that's partially due to just people getting out of routines. You know, everybody has family in or kids are out of school, so that can make a difference.
More than 11,000 donations are needed between now and January 7th. Of that, about 1,500 are required in BC. That means all appointments over the next 2 weeks must be filled up to keep with demand. Some BC parents and guardians say the fees for kids' sports in this province are soaring, putting more pressure on some families already struggling to make ends meet. As Zora Premji explains, a charity that gives grants fears it will soon not have enough to go around.
Here's a reward I won for my swim club diving.
For 14-year-old Jaden and his 11-year-old brother Ashton, swimming has helped connect them to their community and themselves.
I really love swimming as it's like one of my favorite sports to do. And it means like team spirit to me. It means basically everything.
This is the three of us.
Their mother says both her neurodivergent sons have made huge strides, and these swimming lessons and meets are something the single mother says she couldn't have afforded without access to grants.
For you to overcome your autism barrier and then to finally get to swim, only for it to be a financial barrier that holds you back, it's heartbreaking as a parent.
But Raj fears there won't be enough grants to continue supporting her sons and others like them.
So the cost roughly is about $800 for summer swimming. And then when we do swim meets and dive meets, those cost money to enter. So it would be about, I would say, $1,400 a summer per child. We've doubled in cost in 6 years.
Her family has been receiving grants from privately funded charity Athletics for Kids for at least 6 years now.
When a parent has to choose between food and rent, that sports are often the first things to go. Since the start of the pandemic, the number of grants that Athletics for Kids has issued to kids in need has shot up by 400%.
And as the needs climb, Gosselin fears they're nearing a point where they won't be able to help every kid.
Not only are we getting the child participating in sport, sometimes we're giving them a lifeline.
According to Athletics for Kids, the number of grants has grown from 250 in 2020 to around 1,000 in 2023, and they'd like to see more support from the government to keep the help coming. The province says it has been providing more supports to families through the boosted BC Family Benefit and other programs, including $400,000 in grants. But Raj says at this point, that just won't be enough.
So we either have to take on a second job or we have to get a supplementary grant.
Gosselin says her charity will keep the help coming for as long as it can and for as many children as it can. Zara Premji, CBC News, Vancouver.
The BC Green Party is a two-seat team in the legislature these days. Its leader told On the Coast host Gloria Makarenko recently the party still plays an important role.
It's really to bring evidence-based solutions to the many challenges and crises that we face as a province. And that's everything from being realistic about climate change and presenting evidence-based solutions to that, to addressing the growing inequality that we have in this province. We have seen decade over decade, governments that have ignored the symptoms of growing problems, and now we are in a place of overlapping crises. We have a housing affordability crisis. We have, as you and I were just talking about, more and more people in BC dependent on food banks. We have a food security crisis. We have a healthcare system crisis. People in BC can't be assured that healthcare is going to be there when they need it.
First to Know says she's especially concerned with BC's housing problem, arguing the NDP government is not taking the right approach to solve the problem.
So housing affordability has caused significant problems for people. I hear from so many people who are living, renters in particular, living somewhere, and they won't ask their landlords to do repairs, or they won't raise any issues because they're so afraid of being evicted, and that housing insecurity really impacts their whole lives. More supply is not going to address this problem. We need affordable housing. We need non-market housing, co-op housing, social housing, housing that is geared to people's income. That's what creates housing security for people. And with all of the measures that the NDP just introduced, very little to none of it is about affordability.
When it comes to climate change, First to Know has slammed BC Conservative Party leader John Rustad. He has said climate change is not an existential threat and that we are, quote, not in a crisis.
And so the Conservatives, for example, have come out saying that they don't really think climate change is a problem. And to disconnect affordability from climate change, the worse climate change gets, the more we're going to see financial and economic impacts. Everything from the cost of storms to the cost of food to disruptions to our supply chains. Climate change is a massive economic disruptor. And we have a Conservative Party in BC coming out and saying they actually don't think that climate change is an issue, and they don't believe it's a crisis that we have to take seriously. That's quite a concern to us. And I think it should be a concern to all British Columbians that pretending that these crises aren't happening is not the way that we're going to solve them.
And we'll have our year-end recap with Premier David Eby on tomorrow. 3 women in BC are now part of history. They're their company's first all-female tugboat crew, moving the ship from Port Renfrew to Stewart, about a 12-hour journey. Ocean Rutherford spoke with Early Edition host Stephen Quinn recently about how the industry is changing.
Growing up in Prince Rupert especially, lots of women spent their entire lives on the water, but there weren't female captains in the area. And I remember being in New Zealand about 10 years ago, and I went on a tour boat and it was crewed and captained by women. And I was like, oh my gosh, this can be possible. When there's a healthy workplace, be it in the fishing industry or a tugboat company, for instance, if there is space for women, if they're that progressive, it tends to be a healthy enough workplace. And so if it wasn't a healthy workplace for women, it probably wouldn't be a healthy workplace for men either. And we all just want to show up, do a good job, and go home to our families.
Mild conditions mean disappointment for skiers and snowboarders in BC, along with tourists hoping to see the snow our country is famous for.
We can't really see much because it's a bit foggy. The ski areas don't have much snow. But it's pretty, but not as pretty as it should have been, yeah.
We knew that some of the activities were closed, the winter activities, but still we were hoping to experience much more than what we got today. Yeah.
Mount Seymour was closed, or will be closed until December 30th because of a lack of snow, while Cypress has closed all night skiing except for one chair until the 30th as well. Grouse Mountain has canceled some lessons but does remain open. Environment and Climate Change Canada says we should see slightly colder temperatures next week. And Russ Lacate will have your BC-wide forecast later in the show.
We depend on the snow for our initial stream flow in the rivers and then to recharge moisture into the ground.
After the break, more on how our mild start to winter could affect next summer. Stick around. And hello to everyone watching our commercial-free live stream tonight. A restaurant that's been a staple in Midtown Toronto for more than 4 decades is closing at the end of this week. Our Greg Ross caught up with the longtime owners of the Rosedale Diner today, who say it's time to hang up the aprons.
That's the one. Beautiful. We're going over here.
This tiny diner on Yonge Street, just south of St. Clair, was jam-packed today.
Oh, I'm so jealous.
And it's expected to be busy all week as longtime customers stop by for one last visit. Robin Friedman has been coming here for over 40 years.
It's not just another restaurant. It was really like a different experience, you know? It was like coming to a home and experiencing the family in the home.
That family is the Filars. Husband and wife, Doobie and Esty Filar, bought the restaurant back in 1981.
We would pass by on Yonge, and I would always say, I would like to have this place.
It was just an opportunity. We were young and...
Little did they know at the time just how big a part of their lives this diner would become. They'd raised their 2 kids here.
I have to figure out a table 4 that was...
Their son Gil Filar is now the general manager.
I used to run around and make potions with my sister. That was a big thing, like, you know, out of creamers and ketchup and...
2 years ago, Gil's sister was married here.
It was a small wedding because it was during COVID, and it was beautiful. The place here was just amazing.
Doobie walked his daughter down a makeshift aisle on the back patio.
They waited in the garbage room, and they came out of the garbage room, and it was very romantic. We had to clean
a wonderful memory, the wedding, Maya's wedding.
It's one of the many memories made here over the years, not just for the owners, but for the customers as well.
It's amazing to see how much this place means to other people. I didn't expect that, genuinely. So that's been incredible.
I always want this to be here. Even when I don't come in to eat, if I'm walking by, I come in and say hello and, you know, or have a drink or have a coffee. And it's going to be weird without this place. Like it's part of, you know, the landmark of the city.
The neighborhood will never be the same. It's an iconic place.
It was Gil who decided he wanted to move on from the family business, so Esty and Doobie decided that they would too.
It's time. It's okay. We feel okay about it. We feel good about it because we're going to move on to other things.
Esty and Doobie plan to start their retirement with an extended vacation. When they get back, they say they have some other projects in the works.
We probably will do a cookbook of going through over the 40 years that we're doing things.
They say that cookbook would include recipes and memories from their 4 decades at the Rosedale Diner. Greg Ross, CBC News, Toronto. So far, this winter is proving to be a disappointment for those who like winter sports or anyone who'd hoped for a white Christmas. On this Throwback Thursday, we're looking back at another mild winter in Winnipeg. Similar to this year, December 1997 was also an El Nino year.
The sound of a Winnipeg winter.
It's December 23rd, and I'm wearing my shoes still. I can't believe it's incredible weather.
Wow, it started! Street cleaners instead of snowblowers, a far cry from the winter of 1996. Last December, Manitoba already had twice the normal snowfall. Highways were closed, streets impassable. And it only got worse. A freak storm in April paralyzed the province for days.
There's no snow being reported on the ground across most of the southern prairies.
What a difference El Nino makes. Southern Manitoba will have its first brown Christmas since 1939. The forecast high, a balmy -3.
If we compare with last Christmas, our high in Winnipeg that day was -28, so such an incredible difference from last year.
Winnipeg's fleet of snow clearing equipment is still tucked away in garages, saving the city about $2.5 million.
Something no one that I have met has seen in December, end of December in Winnipeg.
And that's bad news if you sell snowblowers. Sales at this store have dropped off by 50%.
Hopefully, if we get 6 inches of snow, that'll generate some business as far as service. And there's some people that are sitting on the fence that want to buy snowblowers, but they're just waiting until they need it.
A day many Winnipeggers don't look forward to.
Around Christmas, you can never get out or anything, but it's just beautiful.
I'm here about 50 years. Never been like that.
In fact, this will be Winnipeg's first brown Christmas in 58 years, and there could be more mild weather to come. Environment Canada now predicts this province may feel the effects of El Nino well into the month of February. Danielle Kiefler, CBC News, Winnipeg.
Well, you heard it there, more brown Christmases to come. Now, and that prediction definitely rang true this year. To talk more about the implications, David Atkinson joins us now. He's professor and chair of the Department of Geography at the University of Victoria. David, thanks for joining us. First of all, we're impacted by snow differently than in Manitoba, but what impact will the mild weather that we've had so far have on the rest of the year in this province?
Well, we're probably in for a continued low snowpack, as we've seen already. And then that's going to echo into our spring. We depend on the snow for our initial stream flow in the rivers and then to recharge moisture into the ground, which of course helps start the fire season off with a little more moisture in the ground. If we don't have that snow, we don't get that extra bump of moisture early in the summer season.
And as we've already heard in the show earlier tonight, farmers and ranchers concerned because they're still dealing with drought conditions, particularly in the Northeast. We know many people may have been disappointed they didn't get a white Christmas this year. Given the data that you see, do you think that will become the norm in the Lower Mainland and beyond?
It's definitely the case over the coming years. As climate change just continues to take hold. We're simply going to get increased temperatures. We're going to get more occurrences of precipitation coming in the form of rain rather than snow. So yes, unfortunately, it's going to be the path for the future, more brown Christmases.
How does this loss of snowpack and the implications impact the way do you think people will think about weather and climate change?
Well, it's a very visible reminder of climate change. If we decrease snow from 2 meters to 1.5 meters, it doesn't, we still have snow on the ground, but if we go from 0.5 meters to 0, that's a sudden big change. And I think the more changes we get like that, the more it really is driving home the point that climate is changing.
David Atkinson, the chair of the Department of Geography at the University of Victoria, thanks you for your time and your expertise tonight.
Thanks very much.
There's a live shot of Queen Elizabeth Theatre right across the street. Russ LeCate will have your BC-wide weather forecast next.
Current surveys are covering climbs in the David Thompson area and include questions on climbing activity, conditions, and avalanche observations. Using historical data, surveys, images, and mapping, organizers say the Ice Climbing Atlas can serve as one of several safety and trip planning tools to help climbers better understand the terrain and avalanche risks. The project receives support from organizations like Avalanche Canada, Parks Canada, and Kananaskis Country Public Safety. Professional climber, guide, and Avalanche Canada ice climbing ambassador Sarah Hunican helped launch the initiative and coordinates the survey. This comes after she lost a close friend to an avalanche in 2019. She calls it a passion project.
I've wondered why we don't have more information on these climbs that we go to. How can we get the community more involved in sharing their stories? As ice climbers, it's a tight community. People like to share information. Everyone supports everyone out there. So this idea of creating surveys and getting the historical data together is part of that. It's part of creating more conversation around the hazards that we're going into as well.
She's collaborating with Parks Canada visitor safety specialist Grant Statham. He's coordinating mapping and image work. He says it's crucial safety and trip planning information for climbers and that they're hoping to increase their awareness of the terrain above and around the climb.
And this is information that the professional climbers, the guides, those of us who work in rescue, we know the terrain. We're in there all the time. We've climbed these routes many times. It's just that there was no way for this, wasn't really published anywhere, it wasn't available. So recreational climbers or people who didn't know that had no way of really knowing. So that's sort of, I guess I would say it's overdue, but it's filling a gap.
Surveys for about 20 ice climbs have been completed so far, with plans for more in the months and years ahead. The ad climbers can also add observations to the Mountain Information Network to assist ongoing safety work. The Ice Climbing Atlas and surveys are on the Avalanche Canada website. Dave Gilson, CBC News, Banff.
Hi, I'm Amy Bell, and here's what's in your CBC Vancouver inbox.
Enjoy groundbreaking contemporary works of theatre, dance, music, and multimedia at the annual Push International Performing Arts Festival, January 19th to February 4th. For the festival program and tickets, visit pushfestival.ca. And never miss a special programming series, event, or contest. Subscribe to CBC Vancouver's e-newsletter at cbc.ca/Vancouver Inbox and keep connected with us.
The weather update is brought to you by Direct Buy Furnace. To cool and clean the air in your home, call Direct Buy Furnace. Installing Trane, the most reliable heating and cooling brand.
Meteorologist Russ Lacate is back with the BC-wide weather forecast and when it might get a little bit colder?
First week of January. And that's province-wide. I think at the northeast corner of the province is really going to cool down in early January. Locally here, we'll see a return to near normal temperatures. Second week of January, that's what we're still targeting for a significant change province-wide as we start to see the polar vortex become unstable, and maybe we'll see a little bit more of that Arctic air entering into the Canadian weather picture. But now, not a chance. The jet stream is from due south. Everything's incredibly mild as it has been for the past several days, and it plays into your weather warning scenario as well. The rainfall warning continues for Haida Gwaii overnight and early Friday. Wind warning up for southeasterlies 70 to 90 k. North end of the island and around parts of the central coast as well. What does that mean for your day one forecast for tomorrow? Well, it's rainy and windy in Prince Rupert. We might break a record high up to 11 degrees. Not quite as windy near Tofino, but still another wet and mild day at 14 degrees. Cold air being scoured out from the inland areas. We're seeing Bella Coola up to 7 degrees tomorrow. Even Terrace 6 above. That sounds like a springtime temperature, not a midwinter temperature. Dease Lake a little cooler. Over the far north, it is still on the cool side. side, but these temperatures will be dropping down by about an additional 10 or 15 degrees within the course of the next week or so. So lots of sunshine through the central interior into the Caribou, sunshine into parts of the southern interior as well. More and more stubborn cloud begins to fill up our valley bottoms in and around the southern interior over the next 2, 3, 4 days. Today was very mild across Metro Vancouver. Once again, double-digit highs. I'll check the records late tonight. I'm sure we're rewriting the record books. Your long-range forecast for Metro Vancouver, still another temperature up there near record high tomorrow. 11 degrees on Saturday with a few more showers. Now, for New Year's Eve, I believe it dries out, and it sets the stage for a nice, cool, dry trend to begin 2024.
Okay. Thanks very much, Russ.
Yeah.
That's your late news for Thursday. For news anytime, check our website, cbc.ca/BC. Your next local news is on the early edition on CBC Radio 1. That starts tomorrow morning at 5:30. Have a good night.